Hello, hello. What day is it? It's Travel Tuesday, and I've got a special guest for us today. So, welcome to the broadcast. Welcome to those who are live, and welcome to the replay viewers. Hello, hello. Well, today I have the pleasure of interviewing Heather Greenwood Davis, and I'm going to share a little bit about her in a minute, but I want to say hi to those who are here. Hey, Benita, thanks for joining. And hi, Danita, thank you for joining. Well, let me tell you a little bit about Heather. We're going to get right into it. This is going to be an exciting broadcast, and I hope that you'll take the time to ask questions. And so, first of all, let me introduce Heather. Heather Greenwood is a contributing editor at National Geographic Traveler, a feature writer for the Globe and Mail. She is also a freelance writer for more than 2 decades. Can you believe that? She's been writing primarily about family travel for almost 18 years. Heather is also the founder and voice behind globetrottingmama.com, and I'll be sharing that website with you in the comments later on in the show. Her site documents an award-winning year-long trip around the world with her family, including her husband, Ish, and sons, Ethan and Cameron. The trip won acclaim for the family, and they were named National Geographic Travelers of the Year. So welcome, Heather.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
Thank you. You want to share just a little bit more about yourself before we get started?
I think that's tons. I do a lot of different travel sharing. So whether it's written or on TV or on radio, and I'm a big proponent of families getting out there and seeing the world. So I'm happy to chat.
All right. So share with me, there may be families out there that maybe have some hesitation about traveling as a family, especially with those who maybe their children are a little bit younger and they're wondering, oh, are they going to remember?
Right.
So what's the importance of family travel?
Well, here's the thing is I always say, you never have a lot of money and a lot of time at the same time, right? It's usually one or the other. And I think with families, what often happens is the kids come along and we think we need to shelve all of the things that were important to us before they arrived and sort of focus on making sure they have, food, shelter, that sort of thing. And listen, those things are important. They should have those. But what we found was that travel was offering our family an opportunity for the kids to broaden their way of thinking. And at the age that we were traveling with them, I literally started traveling with them when I was pregnant with my oldest. So for their entire lives, they've been traveling with us. It wasn't so much about how much they would remember. It was also about the fact that we were having this experience of being with them in other places. And what was that allowing us to learn and teach them? And what was that teaching them when they were out there? So I think families, I always say the best thing to do is start early. Those first times are never going to be easy, but the earlier you start, at least you can get it going.
All right. Now, the fact that people tend to focus on their money, we talked about the age of the children, and the money deficit, and they ignore the fact that our time is not finite.
Right.
How would you respond to that?
Yeah, I think it's huge. So, it seems like we say this all the time, right? Like that, life is short. You've got to make the most of the time you have. But guess what? Life is short and you need to make the most of the time you have. It's all very true. And I'm learning that even more now that my kids are now 17 and 15. And I can't believe how quickly that went and how fast they've grown. And we did a lot of things. So I often think about families who haven't taken that time. I think part of the thing with thinking about travel and the cost of travel is that we have it in our minds that travel has to be big trips. And they don't have to be around the world vacations. It's about the time you're investing. So it can happen close to home. We've done trips where it's just into Toronto. I live just outside the city. We've taken up everything, moved into Toronto for a weekend and spent some time exploring Toronto. It does not have to be far. It's about the time you're investing, and the rewards of that travel are huge. So it's well worth the investment for sure.
When you think about your sons, what have they told you was their highlight, their wow moment when you did the world trip?
Okay, so Cameron, who was 6 at the time, I think he was just a little younger than 6 when we left, but 6 at the time, out of the whole world. So we did 29 countries on 6 continents over the course of this year. And my 6-year-old son's biggest highlight was Alberta, Canada, where he got to ride on a horse by himself for the first time. So that remains a highlight for him. My older son, for him, it was about Thailand. And what he loved there is he had an opportunity to go zip lining for the first time and really conquer a fear he had. So that stood out for him. And then my husband even talks about India. And for him, we spent 6 weeks in India. And what he loved about that was that he had all kinds of ideas and had heard how, it might be dangerous or the food was going to make him sick or all kinds of stuff. And none of that turned out to be true while we were there. For us, we had an amazing time, and it stands out as one of his highlights. So, for each of us, it's been a different place and a different experience that sort of cemented the love of travel. But we all came away from that trip forever changed, really.
I'd like to welcome Edna to the show and Keija Gray. Welcome.
Hey, hi.
So, what are some tips for engaging your children in travel?
So I think the mistake that a lot of families make, especially, and not to be sexist here, but often it's the mom in the relationship who's often figuring this out, or definitely one parent. And they spend all this energy and time trying to develop this trip that's going to be perfect for the kids. I think what you want to do is get those kids involved really early. And even when my kids were little, like I say, for that big trip, they were 6 and 8. We had a giant Post-it note on the wall. They could go and write down or tell us what they wanted to do on this trip. So even when they didn't know the names of places or where things were happening, they were still contributing to what the trip was going to be. And I think that's really important, because I think as adults, we know if you don't feel engaged and a part of the discussion of things and a part of the creation of things, it's usually a little less interesting. And I think it's the same for kids. So get them involved, ask them what they want to do, let them know where you're going, maybe work on some things before you go to this place where you're exposing them to the food and the culture, and maybe watching a movie or a kid's show that takes in some of these ideas. And then they'll be a little more excited about the trip, and that's going to make the trip that much better for everyone.
That sounds great. Now, what would you say you've gained from travel? Just in general.
Wow. Personally and professionally, travel has changed my world. So the lessons that I've taken from travel range from, just the importance of bonding and how great it's been to develop my family with travel in the backdrop. But also professionally, it's, I was writing travel articles for a newspaper here for a long time. And that's blossomed into doing TV work and radio and sharing a message I'm really passionate about. And for me too, the joy that I see that I get from exposing other people to travel and sort of exposing them to, the cultures and the people who are out there in the world who are really quite kind and may not share your exact background, but give you an opportunity to really get some insight into the rest of the world. I think that's so important. And travel's what has been the vehicle that's allowed me to do that. So, I've gotten so much from travel. I really wish it for everyone else.
That's how I feel too. As I book travel for people and as I travel, I just want to see more people out there, especially exactly. In the diverse community or the diaspora to step out. And there's just so much that you will enjoy, and even for your children, the experiences they have.
Yeah.
Think about if they're learning about India, for example, that the fact that it's just not in the book. It's live for them that they've experienced it. So that's great.
Absolutely, it shapes them.
Now, recently, you went to New Zealand.
I did.
And, the link is going to be in the comments, so you get to watch her New Zealand trip. And I mentioned to her before we started that New Zealand was not one of the places on my bucket list, but after watching that, it was just so interesting. So share a little bit about that experience going to
Yeah. So that was amazing. So I went to New Zealand with National Geographic, and I was there with two other explorers, Erica Larson, who's an amazing photographer, and Christoph Niemann, who's a fantastic illustrator. And so the three of us went into New Zealand and were exposed to different people and cultural activities, incredible wine and food. And then what they did is they created a series of videos, and then they turned those series of videos into a half-hour television show. So that's what's up now. That aired on the National Geographic the National Geographic channel earlier this month. But New Zealand it's just such a fantastic destination in terms of, the geography, the landscape, the people are just so open and kind. And I really hope a lot more people get to go there. I know it's far away for a lot of us, but it's well worth it.
Okay. So what's next for you?
What's next? Where would you like me to go? I've got a whole bunch of things coming down the pipeline. So in the next little while, I sit on the Family Travel Association Board of Advisors. So we'll be meeting soon in South Dakota, which is going to be amazing, and talking about ways that we can encourage even more families to get out there. And, they've got a program going on now that focuses on taking family time and the importance of that. And so I'll be working with them to get that message out. And then professionally, I'm going to be out. I'll be back in New Zealand, I think, maybe later this year. I told you I loved it. And I've got TV segments coming up and a lot of writing. And, I'll be all over. Neighborhood near you.
All right. Now, one of the things that we haven't talked about is multi-generational trips.
Right.
And the importance of picking your travel mates, people that you want to travel with.
So important.
Yeah. A little bit about that.
So I have been blessed with parents who also like to travel and have accompanied me with my kids since they were very little on various trips. Sometimes one parent or the other will come with us. Sometimes I'll travel just with them. And what we have yet to do is have them travel just with the kids, which is something called skip generation travel, because they skip the generation in the middle. And I'm not encouraging that. So we're going to leave that to the side. But multi-generational trips are so incredibly important because they offer an opportunity for the generations on either side of me to bond in that same, the same benefits that I was receiving as a parent traveling with my kids. Now I can watch my parents get with my children and my children get from my parents. So one of the trips we did recently was a trip back to Jamaica. My parents are Jamaican and my kids are Canadian. And they never sort of had the experience of seeing Jamaica through my parents' eyes. And so taking them back and giving them an opportunity to see where my parents went to school or where my mom did her nursing training, and to meet some family members and extended family members who they hadn't met before, to learn how to eat sugar cane, and peel it back and really get in there. And all of those kinds of things are things that I could tell them about here in Canada. But experiencing it with my parents is something that they're going to take with them for the rest of their lives, And I think kids in multi-generational trips, kids don't necessarily recognize in the moment how important it is. But I have no doubt that as they get older, that's going to be a treasured memory.
Yes, it's amazing. And also for them to experience a little bit of the culture of their family. Like for me, I have family from Brazil and Barbados.
Right.
One of the special times for my family was taking I have two sons also.
Yeah.
And taking them to Barbados to meet their family and then following up. And I remember my sons, they were, I don't know, maybe 8 and 4, but they got to, eat with the family and then kind of overlook. Next was like a little mini farm, and monkeys in the trees, and they were so excited, and they got to pick the mangoes and eat them. Just those experiences are, just invaluable.
And that's why I think it's why travel is so important, because it engages all those senses, right? They're tasting, they're touching, they're feeling, they're hearing, they're seeing, and it's so different, like you say, from a book, where it's really this two-dimensional experience. Here they have a chance, they can ask questions, it's such an incredible way for them to learn.
Absolutely, absolutely. Uh, just kind of in closing, is there anything a question that I didn't ask, or something that you wanted to share?
No, I mean, generally, I just want people to realize that it's possible, and to really look past what might seem like limitations on why you can't do it, and try to figure out the ways, as small as they may be, that you can, and to expose the kids that way. Because there are places in the world where people sometimes feel small, and there are places when you get out into the world, it just broadens that so much and gives you an opportunity to really develop a good sense of self and self-confidence and self-esteem. And I've seen that in my kids. It's been such a great way for them to develop confidence in themselves. And I think a lot of young people could do with that right now.
All right. Well, welcome, Jill, to the broadcast. And if you have any questions of Heather, please put them in the comments and I'll be sure to ask them. And I'll also be checking back for the replay viewers if there's something that you would like to ask. Put them in the comments, and I'll pass the question on to Heather and get back to you with it. But it's really been a pleasure to have you. And let me tell, I started the broadcast and I didn't if you don't know me, I didn't say anything about me. Well, and my name is Eva Jordan Johnson, and I help you to have worry-free group vacations and conferences. Most people are overwhelmed and stressed out with the planning and logistics of a group travel event. Well, we help you to transform your ordinary vacation and conferences into amazing group adventures. And I will have in the comments, we have 2 amazing trips coming up. My husband and I will be inviting you to join us on a trip to South Africa. We will be going to Johannesburg and to Cape Town, and it's not your usual South Africa trip. You're going to get to see the sites, Robbins Island and Table Mountain and those things, but you're also going to get the opportunity to interact with the South Africans, experience some of the special treats and cultural. And then, for those of you who know me, mission trips are my passion. This is not a mission trip, but we are going to take a day to give back and to volunteer. So I'm so looking forward to it. And there's a link in the comments for that. And then that's coming up in October 2020. And then in September 2020, if you've been thinking about taking your girlfriends and doing something different, getting together, well, there's a girlfriend trip coming up, and the link and information for that is also in the comments. Danita will be putting that in there for you. So take time to check those 2 things out. And I want to just thank you, Heather. Thank you so much for taking the time to be on Travel Tuesday today.
Okay, no problem at all.
And you are going to be, the audience are going to be so enjoy going on her blog and seeing the amazing trips and adventures that she's been on. Oh, and one last thing that a question I think to ask you before we close is,
sure.
You said you recently did an article on diversity in travel. Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So that one is for National Geographic Traveler. It appeared, I think, in the September issue of Traveler, and it's online now. I'll make sure you get the link. And that just talks a little bit about what my experiences have been like. Like you said, I've been a travel writer for about 20 years, focusing on family travel for a lot of that. And I'm still very much often the only and other in a lot of spaces when it comes to Black travel writers. And so we were just talking about the fact that, people of color and people who have alternate viewpoints need opportunities to share their stories as well. So I really credit National Geographic for making the space for that in the magazine and sharing it online and encouraging that conversation and sharing that message, because it's something that really is important to me, and I think is important to a lot of people. So there's been some great feedback on that, and hopefully we get to see a lot more stories and a lot more diverse stories in publications.
Okay. Well, thank you. And if you are interested in doing a group travel event, then I'm going to put up the links for that. And so my blog is travelwitheva.com. And if you're interested in doing a group travel, girlfriend group, multi-generation trip, or even a conference where you just take it out of the hotel and take it to paradise, you can go to group.travelwitheva.com to fill out a questionnaire. And then you can go to schedule.travelwitheva.com to set up a complimentary consultation with me. All right. And be sure to share if you know someone that you're like, oh, wow, they would love to hear this interview, then share it, heart it, and we would so much appreciate it. And then I'd just like to close and just, again, thank you, Heather, for taking the time to do this interview.
No problem.
And, I always like to end the broadcast with, have a blessed day and take time to be a blessing to someone else. Bye for now.
Bye now.